Hi, welcome back to Code with Callan. Picking up from our first video, we're going to set up the project now in order to build the front end and the back end. So we're going to set up our build scripts for Gradle. We're going to enable our repository settings. And we're going to make our first application class. This is going to be slightly a long video, so I'll put timestamps in the bottom to where you can skip to where you're interested at. So let's get started. We're going to open up the settings.gradle file. From there, we're going to add in plugin management section. We're going to specify our repositories that we're going to be using. We'll be using 3 plugins to set up this project. So now that we got that set up, that's pretty much all we need in the settings file. Next, we'll move on to setting up the build.gradle. I prefer using Gradle because the majority of the build scripts are a lot shorter. They're easier to manage, and you have full flexibility of what you want to do with the build. Alright, so pretty much we're applying the Java plugin. We'll apply Jacoco code coverage later, and we're utilizing the Spring Boot plugin, Spring Dependency Management, and the Node Gradle plugin. So now we're going to set up our Java version. I like to use Java toolchain. We're going to set the version level to 17. Next, we'll set up our Node plugin. We're going to set it to download true, that way it downloads Node and puts it in the build directory, or the .gradle directory. And we're going to set our version to what I currently have installed. So you could find this out by opening a terminal and executing node-v. So now we got to that point. So let's go ahead and create our directories here. Okay. Now setting up the task, which we'll wait for a second. Let's add dependencies in first. That we'll start with. So currently this is our bare bones, or not necessarily bare bones, but just what we want to start with. Okay, next we will set up our task. So task in Gradle is all the build execution. Everything's assigned to a task. So to get started, we'll set up our test task. We're going to be using JUnit Jupyter. And I like to change the log levels inside test, so not everything's being printed out. So I use passed, I use failed, and I use skipped. And we can add the imports. That's the other benefit about using Kotlin DSL. Now that the test task is configured, let's go ahead and set up. These are the tasks that are required for making the front end. And you can name these whatever you want, but we're going to set the working directory. I like to put my front end in source main front end. And we're going to set the arguments to a list of install. Typo. Install. So that pretty much is going to just install our node dependencies. Next, we'll set up the build task. And this one depends on install. So install needs to run first before the build can execute. We're going to set the working directory again. And our args this time is going to be a list of build. And these all respond to like yarn build, so it's like your node scripts. Next task is a copy task. And it is used to copy the front end build into the back end. So it depends on build. We're going to copy from into root directory. It's going to be build resources main static. This task pretty much allots the ability to copy the front end build into the directory needed for Spring Boot to render. Next, we're going to set up our compiled Java, where it depends on copy. This way, when we compile our Java code, it automatically builds the front end. And we're going to extend the clean plugin. And we need to make another task, and it's going to be type of delete. We're just going to name it clean up front end. and it's going to delete project directory. Pretty much it is deleting the front end build folder. We're going to make clean depends on it. Okay. Now we got the bare bone structure set up, but we still don't have our front end. Okay. So we're going to open our terminal. We're going to change into source main. We're going to go yarn, because I'm using yarn. You could be using node or npm. So you can use npm or yarn, whichever tool you have installed. But we're going to execute yarn create React app. And we're just going to name it front end. And we're going to use the template of TypeScript. Now give it a second while that goes through and creates the React project. In the future videos, we're going to set up security, Spring Security, and Spring OAuth 2, and also Liquid Base with Postgres in order to do database migrations. We'll also add test containers in order to test it with Postgres, so we no longer have the H2 database. Okay, so if I click over here now, here's our front end app. We can go ahead and delete the get ignore and the readme. Everything else can pretty much stay the same. So we just want to make sure it renders. And then we'll make changes here in a little while and add front end technology. So let's make an application YAML. Okay, here. Now, what's nice about IntelliJ is you get all this auto completion. So we can go to H2 console, enable, true. We'll probably change H2 here in the next upcoming video to Postgres. Now we'll create our main application class. Okay. Now we pretty much have everything inside to where we'll be able to execute everything. Now, let's go ahead and make an application test here. Alright. Now let's have a quick go over here. Make sure we're not missing anything. Okay. Now if I run this, I need a set to modify it to be local profile. If we run it, it should build the React app first, and then start the Spring Boot application. Yep. So right now it's building the front end application. Now it's starting. There's our security password. So we'll go ahead and copy that. Now if I go open a new tab, go to localhost 8080, should prompt me to log in. Default's just user. Password's what we copied from the terminal. And here is our React application. Okay, so it seems like everything's wired together with Gradle correctly. Next, we'll kind of clean it up a little bit, and then we'll start actually building some functionality. Till then, see you next time.